All right, another episode of Business Learning Lab with Jen and Meredith. Today we are talking about how to deliver feedback without crushing souls. And that is your soul as well as the person who is receiving that feedback. We love this topic. I have learned so much in my years as an entrepreneur about giving feedback. Meredith,
Yes.
what does giving feedback mean to you?
It means anxiety. No.
Yes.
So no, it is true. It is one of the hardest things that I've had to learn, both receiving feedback and giving feedback. And we'll just talk about giving feedback because this is not about psychoanalyzing me and my issues with getting feedback. So the thing about feedback is it is hard to do, especially if you really like the person or you've built a relationship with your whoever it is that you're giving feedback to. But it is so essential to having a good, productive working environment. And I think most people do like general feedback on their work, just especially ongoing. The worst is when, like, the sort of classic, annual review once a year, and you find out a list of all the things you did wrong for the whole year is the worst for so many reasons. It's the worst. So the real key is the ongoing, at the moment when the thing happens, being able to give the feedback.
Absolutely. That's a great point. In the moment, at the time, timely feedback. It's so important. I will talk about, one of the mistakes I made giving feedback, and it took an embarrassingly long amount of time for me to get better at giving feedback. But I was always so worried about the crushing souls part. Like, I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I didn't want to make them doubt themselves. So what I would do is I would wrap my feedback into just a bunch of positivity, right? Like telling them how amazing they are in all these different ways. And somewhere in there, very subtle was the feedback. And what was happening is people did not get that I was giving like constructive feedback because it wasn't constructive. They thought they were doing a good job. Like everything they were doing was amazing because my feedback was so flowery and complimentary. So I really had to learn to be a little bit more direct with my feedback. And although I'm always, I don't want to, of course, hurt anyone's feelings or crush anyone's souls. I learned that there is a way to deliver feedback that is both productive and moves and keeps everything in a framework where we're kind of working together collaboratively on a mutual outcome. And so it doesn't have to be this adversarial relationship or approach to giving feedback. So one framework that I really like that is simple and I think anybody can instantly apply to feedback, is particularly if you're not really experienced with giving feedback, is the I like, I wish, and what if we tried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And if I'm ever struggling, I fall back on that framework every single time and it works. I
it
love
is
it.
super effective. And the best part about it is every piece of that is gentle. They're because it really, the thing that is soul crushing about feedback is when it comes across as a personal attack.
Yeah.
You aren't good at writing. You make a lot of typos, right? So that is very hard for the person receiving that feedback to separate out feeling personally attacked and denigrated from just that they need to improve a skill or they need to add a step to their process. So that's what's so nice about that framework is I like, and so you're starting with something positive, which is also important because so often we focus so much on what needs to be changed that we forget to point out what is working. And that's not only because it makes it easier to hear the constructive feedback, but it's really important that they know what they're doing well so they can keep doing it. So a lot of times that they don't know, and I think, okay, well, she didn't say anything about this part, so either that's just not terrible, but it doesn't mean it's great. So we really want to make sure that the people know what is working, so keep doing what is working. So, and then I wish is a very it's a very neutral way of talking about what needs to get changed. And it's very clear that we're talking about something that's going to be changed, something that needs to be different, but it is not related to the person. It's not saying, I need you to be better at proofreading or whatever it is. And so the person can hear it as constructive feedback on their work and not a judgment on their person.
And the only thing I love I wish too, and this is the other piece of I wish that I love, is it gives you an opportunity to take responsibility for any part of, that you played in that feedback needing to be delivered. So maybe your instructions were not as clear as they could have been. Maybe you didn't provide the resource materials that would have been helpful and would have set that task up for success. So you can say, I wish I had been better at giving you more clear instructions. I wish I had followed up with you sooner. So it's a good opportunity for you to take responsibility here as well.
Absolutely. Also opens up in a similar vein. If you could say, I wish you would have pointed out that I didn't give you the resources you needed. So it also gives some empowerment to the person to say, you can push back. You can tell me when I didn't do a good job delegating this to you.
Yeah.
That's okay. And it's, again, a very gentle way. And it almost puts the person receiving the feedback in a more powerful position, because you're saying, I wish, and they have the power to grant your wish.
Yeah, that's such an important piece of it, is that empowerment, that gentle passing along of a little bit of power in the whole process of that feedback. I think that's, it's magical.
Yeah, and that's what prevents the soul crushing of
Yes.
feedback, because you're empowering them to do better. You're empowering them to make you their supervisor or coworker, whoever it is, happier. You're empowering them to be a part of a conversation, because you could say, well, I wish that this post had gone up earlier. And
Right.
then they can say, I know, but this is why it can't, because I had to wait for XYZ to post before I could post. And then you can go, oh, I understand, which leads into the next piece of that framework, which is what if we try, right?
Yep. What if we tried?
So
Which is great because the word we is there.
yes, we love a we. And giving feedback, it's definitely, again, builds on that framework of being a team, of empowering, and instead of piling. You're empowering the person you're giving feedback to. You're not piling like criticism on them, which is what is just so amazing about this framework.
Yeah. And again, I use the word collaborating and collaborative a lot because I think it is a way to set up your culture for success and sharing, responsibilities and in outcomes. So that's why I love this whole what if we tried, because it feeds into that collaborative framework. It communicates that they're not in this alone. We all have responsibility for this shared outcome. That sort of thing. And it gives, like you said, it gives them a say in the whole process by what if, gives them space to participate in that discussion. So I love it so much.
Me too. And I really like too, because especially if in a paradigm where you have the leader or the person giving the feedback who's the boss, let's say, especially if it's someone who's like been a solopreneur, maybe they're new to delegating, there could be a tendency to fall into like, I know how to do everything. I know how to do, it's my company. I've been doing the things, you're doing the things. Now you're not doing the things right. And just do them the way I want them done. And like, don't make mistakes, because we all like to think we never make mistakes. So, we're way more aware of like when other people make a mistake than we make a mistake ourselves. And that's frankly toxic, and it is unproductive, especially in a new delegation relationship. And so even if this framework feels more like gentle than what would be your instinct for how to give feedback, I would say that's even more of a reason to try it, because it forces you to go outside whatever your instincts are, whatever your normal process is, and follow this very carefully created, very deliberately crafted framework that will make sure that the conversation is productive, that it is collaborative, that really good solutions come out of it, and empowers the person, again, that you're giving feedback to gently let you know when you are the problem or part of the problem. So, it could be like, I wish we could have these posts go out earlier. And then the person can say, well, I wish that I had the information sooner so I could get the information faster. I wish we had a system where I got the content the day before. And then the owner can say, okay, get it.
And I'm glad you brought up, people that are delegating, for the first time, they're new to delegating, because we work with virtual assistants and business owners who need help getting things off their plate. We've certainly seen the business owner that's a little frazzled, delegating for the first time. They try out a virtual assistant, either with us or maybe before coming to us, and they don't have a good experience. And often that is because their expectations are really high on work product and they haven't delegated. So they hand something off, they haven't delegated well, maybe they don't have an SOP in place, maybe they just, because they're sort of frazzled and in a state of chaos, they quickly send out unclear instructions, something comes back, it's not exactly what they were expecting, and then they fire the virtual assistant, right? They don't even get to the feedback because they don't know how to provide it. They don't realize that, particularly virtual assistants, I mean, everybody needs feedback, but experienced virtual assistants really rely on feedback in order to improve the work that they're doing and be on solid ground with their clients. So without feedback, they can't improve. They can't get on the right track. And I've seen several clients come through that have just dumped VAs rather than give feedback, because again, they expect work product to come out sparkling and perfect and shiny the first go around, and that's just not realistic in any relationship. Like people need to learn your business, your language, your cadence. I mean, there's so much but you don't have to give that feedback forever,
right?
Like
exactly.
Once they take that feedback and work with it, then you should be good for at least for a while.
It's probably worth pointing out that yes, you don't want to have to give the same feedback over and over and over, right?
Yeah.
If that's happening, that's an entirely separate issue. That's a problem with most likely with the person you're delegating to, that they're not getting it, as long as you know that you're being clear on what needs to be different and how it needs to be different. But so yeah, it doesn't mean, sometimes things don't work, and that's fine. Sometimes you have to change who you're delegating to, change up your team, and that is totally fine. But this whole topic really falls under the category we've mentioned before, which is leadership is an active process. It is a practice, and that for us, we don't really ever believe, and we don't like it when people say, well, this is just who I am and just deal with it, because that's refusing to be a part of the practice of leadership, of the learning the skills and adopting the skills moving forward. And you really can't grow and become productive, effective business owner if you're not practicing the skills.
Well, and I'll take it a step further, Meredith, and I'll say it falls under the umbrella of doing business like a woman, which we're all about. And I say that because you, in describing this framework, use the word gentle, right? So, and you don't have to bring a hammer to the party, just because somebody needs some feedback or some constructive feedback. The one reason I dislike the annual review, in addition to it not being timely, is that it's such an intimidating paradigm, right? Like you're walking in and you don't know what to expect. You don't know if you're going to get a raise. You don't know if you're going to get fired. You don't know if you're going to get written up. You don't know
Yeah,
anything, and it's just
it's a power play.
yeah,
Like,
it's definitely a power play. And why? Like, what is the point of intimidating your team? I don't think there's any room for that in a healthy, positive, kind culture.
yeah,
And so, yeah, so, I think it falls under, doing business like a woman, kind, constructive feedback that
exactly.
empowers your team, that approaches everything in a collaborative way. I think is gentle, is kind, and there is something so powerful about it, by virtue of it being that
And that
way.
exactly. And that really at the core of what it means to do business like a woman is to embrace the power in gentle, constructive, relationship focused work. That it doesn't always have to be about
Absolutely.
winning and beating and achieving and power and intimidation. It's all crap. That's all crap. That's all marks of insecurity. But that there is a power in connecting and being able to do that. So
Absolutely. That's probably good place to wrap this business learning lab up. We will see you next week with another business learning lab. In the meantime, do business like a woman.